It's time to break down what went right and what went wrong during this week's game. Severe Reaction is on the air with your host, Michael Severe, and the most important voice of all, yours. Severe Reaction starts now. Powered by Nebraska Medicine and Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Only on 1620 The Zone.
2nd and 5 for midfield. 2 wide each way. Snap to Raiola. 3-man push. Under pressure, he's sacked. Fitting, perhaps finish to this night. Sack back at the 39 adds to a school record. It was Carter Menz again. Boy, he's had himself.
Yeah, that night, didn't he? They took a couple of weeks off from getting after the quarterback. Figured they'd reconvene tonight.
He has 3.5 sacks on the night, and that'll bring it to a close. Frustrating. One of those nights at the office. You got to reset, regroup, get back at it as the students storm the field. Not quite sure why they're doing that. But the Gophers will win this one tonight.
All right, obviously very disappointing. Credit to them. They're the more physical team. They made the plays they needed to make, and they beat us pretty convincingly. So hats off to them, and obviously disappointed for our guys.
As part of my job, it just sucks. I mean, you put so much work in all off season and all week to get ready for this type of game, and it's unfortunate. I mean, we were sitting in the same spot last year, and we get the same results. So I'm very frustrated right now, and it sucks.
It's been 1 week since you looked at me.
All right, happy Sunday morning. Welcome to Severe Reaction here on 1620 The Zone. 402-951-1620, of course, is the number to reach the show. We're going to go over a lot this morning. We got a lot to get to. Obviously, it is a delayed Severe Reaction, being the game was played on Friday night. Nebraska falls to 5-2, loses 24-6 at Minnesota. 6th straight loss to Minnesota, 5th straight there in the House of Horrors, now known as Huntington Bank Stadium. Man, it's a long list of bad, is a long list of ugly. And we're going to have, after 9 o'clock, our prosecuting attorney, Stephen M. Sipple, who will join us to break down some of the malfeasance that happened in that game, some of it involving coaching, some involving players, some involving just, I don't know, an inspired Minnesota Golden Gophers team that is completely convinced by their head coach that they're better than they are. And that they can win the game and they can play well. And for whatever reason, his hypnosis, whatever he does, he convinces his team. I listened to his press conference, and in his press conference, he talked about free throws. We used to talk about layups. He talked about free throws. And the easiest part of the game, right? You do your fundamentals with your free throws, you do it over and over again, and you make your free throws. And he talked about that, and they prepped, and they realized they weren't tackling well coming into the game. But they did. They worked on tackling all week. And you know what they did? Even though they had some missed tackles, they made a bunch of them in the open field one-on-one versus Nebraska. They didn't run the ball well against Purdue. Needless, they had 30 yards rushing. They didn't run the ball well against Purdue. They worked on the run game. They worked on figuring out a way to get it. They grinded and grinded and grinded, had the long run, the 71-yard run by Darius Taylor, and just grinded and grinded to the point where they were getting more and more yards, breaking more and more tackles. They did not stop the run in conference play, especially against Purdue. You know what they did? Much better job stopping the run. Still didn't stop Emmett Johnson. Emmett Johnson was really stopped by the play calling, I thought, in some parts of the game, but still, they did better on that. Everything they had to work on, everything they weren't doing well in conference play, they did better because the mad scientist, the hypnosis guy, the tight suit wearing PJ Fleck with all the slogans, hey, he got them straight. On the other hand, Nebraska came in pretty motivated coming off of a road win against Maryland, a comeback. They're excited about it, feeling good about themselves. Yeah, it's a short week, but you know what? We have great travel. We have great prep. We know what we're doing. And came into the game, and I'm not quite sure what the game plan was. I really don't know at certain points of the game. I do know that there was some coaching malfeasance in the game that we'll talk about a little bit later. We'll go over what went wrong in the game, and there's a long list of things, obviously. But there's one thing I want to talk about before we get to the calls. Jim, Val, I'll get to you in just a second. One of the things that, and this happens every year. I've started covering this team in 2004 on the radio, and 2002 covering Big Red Breakfasts and other things that happened with the team in 2002 and then 2004 on the radio. Every year, it feels that there's a game where I'm completely wrong about. You know, I can watch all the tape. I can look at the stats. I can try to judge what the home team can do, what the road team can do, all of that. But in the end, even though my mind tells me, you know what, this probably isn't a great spot for Nebraska, I still say to myself, you know what, maybe they've gotten over that. Maybe they've gotten over the bad spot. This was the game that I picked them to lose to be the first game of the season. The Minnesota game, I had them going all the way 6-0 and losing at Minnesota because the back-to-back road trip to Maryland, come back to Minnesota, short week, House of Horrors, PJ Fleck, all of those things, I had them losing this. Obviously, after watching Minnesota and seeing what they did and seeing the strengths of Nebraska, I picked Nebraska, which was a horrible mistake, right? But not the first time. Last year, I looked at UCLA, who hadn't been able to run the ball all season long, whose quarterback had all kinds of turnover-worthy plays, who hadn't been able to really operate their offense. And what happened? They were perfect against Nebraska for almost 3 quarters. 2001, Illinois, start the season. I was like, Illinois, they're not going to be able to run the ball against Nebraska. Nebraska's going to be able to stop the run, and you're going to have a team that can't go and throw the ball against Nebraska because that's what Illinois was that first year under Burt. No, I was wrong. You go back to 2000, Minnesota had like, 31 healthy players because of COVID, and they came in and beat Nebraska, right? I mean, every year there's a game like this. But still, you know, learn my lesson, obviously. I don't learn my lesson. And, you know, still pick Nebraska to win. But, man, Minnesota had rushed for 47 yards a game in conference play. They ran for 30 against Purdue. They put up, $186 or something like that against Nebraska? They couldn't rush the passer the last 2 games. They got 0 sacks, very few pressures. And we know what happened there, right? 8 sacks. I'm not going to add the 9th one in there because we're going to talk about the 9th one later. But dominant performance by their front, a front that had struggled in the last 2 weeks. They couldn't stop the run, they couldn't run it, and they weren't getting pressure. At the end of the night on Friday, they got a ton of pressure. They ran the ball well, and for the most part, when they had to, they stopped the run. They couldn't tackle. They tackled better. All of those things they couldn't do. Every weakness that I thought Minnesota had coming in, opposed to the strength of Nebraska, was flipped. And why is that? Is it because they're on the road at Minnesota? Is it a distraction because of what happened all week, talking about maybe having your head coach leave and go someplace else? Was it poor preparation? I will never forget my sophomore year of high school. The basketball coach was also taught government class, civics, Coach Jim Tillett. And Jim Tillett talked about this constantly, whether he was a basketball coach or a government coach. Piss poor performance. Piss poor performance. You know how you get that? By poor preparation. Poor preparation prevents piss poor performance. So we didn't watch them prep for the game. We didn't go to practices. But I can tell you by the result, the preparation wasn't as good as it needed to be to perform on Friday night. And that's frustrating to watch. And for all the fans who drove up there or flew in or whatever else to make a bunch of noise early and to, again, walk out of that place with no return on investment against a team that, again, at one point, Vegas had favored 9.5 points at one point during the week. And then some people go, wait, hold on. They are going to Minnesota. They haven't won here. It is PJ Fleck. Drop down to 7.5. It's one of those things where every time I feel Nebraska has a strength, it gets converted to a weakness. Every time a team has a weakness, it seems to get converted to a strength. Maryland hadn't run the ball all season, didn't have one run over 20 yards, and they got it against Nebraska. Minnesota had only one coming into this game over 20 yards a rush, and they had the 71-yard one on missed tackles. Every single time. It's like they've got some sort of pill that they give out, you know, that all of a sudden converts their weakness into strength. It's incredibly frustrating to watch. We'll get to a lot more of it, a lot of the bad, the good, the most inappropriate thing that Nebraska's done all season. We'll get to that a little bit later as well, but let's get to the phones first. We'll go to Jim. Good morning, Jim. You're on Severe Reaction. What's up, man?
Hey, good morning, Michael. It's a tough day to be a Husker, isn't it?
Well,
But anyway,
I will say this, Jim. Obviously, I didn't go to school there. I didn't grow up here. But just as a football fan, it was incredibly frustrating to watch.
yes, it was. Listen, I think we need to take a look at the Raiolas in our program, both Donovan and Dylan. Donovan, you have to remember, is a carryover from Frost's program.
Yep.
He's been here for 4 years, and to see our offensive line just manhandled by what I would say is a very mediocre defensive front, we need to take a hard look at how long he can continue here without some type of a change. And Dylan Raiola, he has to get rid of the ball much faster. And the only person that can blame really for a lot of his troubles is his uncle. And then I think we also need to finally look at the strength and conditioning program, because we've been manhandled for 3 years in the Big Ten, and that's got to stop. We're not in the Big 12. That's where where Rule made his fame, and we've got to get a lot more physical, or we're going to have a lot more games like this. Anyway, I love your show, and I'll hang up and listen.
Thanks, Jim. I appreciate it. Now, I will disagree on for 3 years they've been manhandled. The 2 years where they had size interior, right, when they had Nash and they had Ty, especially last year, they actually were pretty physical. And if you look at short yardage plays, if you look at the way Nebraska limited teams to run, especially in the middle, Nebraska was pretty physical last year and did a really good job in limiting teams. So I would say this year's a little bit different, obviously, because you lose a lot of your size inside and you're going more with athletes and a little bit more with depth. But yeah, that certainly they got bullied by Minnesota. There was a point in the game where it was just simple bully ball. There were 4 plays basically in a row on that 98-yard drive where Nebraska made contact with the Minnesota player, and the player got at least 4 more yards, whether it was a broken tackle or simply giving that player a ride. That can't happen. You can't be on 3rd and 3 and have a ball thrown across the middle, 3rd and 5, a ball thrown across the middle. Your defensive back contacts the tight end, and he gets the first down. That can't happen. You can't throw a smoke route to a wide receiver. He gets contacted at 1 yard behind the line of scrimmage, and he ends up gaining 7. That can't happen. You can't toss the ball to the running back, and he gets hit at the line of scrimmage, and then he pulls people 3 more yards for a first down. That can't happen. Yes, this year they are truly getting physically at times the point of attack dominated, and too many times on individual times where they have to make a tackle, they're not. Completely agree with that. I will disagree the last 2 years. I thought 2 years before this, much more physical team when you had Ty and Nash. Let's go back to the phones. That's where Val is. Good morning, Val.
Good morning, Michael. How are you today?
I'm all right. Not bad. I actually got some rest last night, so I feel much better than I normally do.
That's great. I just a couple quick points. Number one, if we beat Northwestern, and become bowl eligible next week, then this poor performance can be swept under the rug. But in terms of the actual coach, like you said earlier, all your points, we were completely outcoached. One of the things that I was sitting with some friends who are more observant than I, they said that on almost every single play, Minnesota almost brought the clock down to 0 on every single possession. So, and their time of possession was incredible. We were completely outcoached. I don't know, like you said earlier, maybe it was the diversion over a rule going to Penn State or something like that. I don't know, but we came out in the third quarter in possession. And we were running the ball with Emmett, and then all of a sudden we had to throw the ball. And that stopped us. They were down on the 5-yard line or something and drove.
Two-yard line.
That changed the game.
Yeah.
That changed the whole game.
It did.
But in terms of the actual coaching, it was a real disappointment in the team. I mean, we've had 20 sacks in the last 3 or 4 weeks, which is ridiculous for any kid to stand behind center to be hammered that much. And also, I just wanted to say, in terms of Neal, our quarterback, I don't think he's been he's been under pressure, but I don't think his performance, especially this week, was top notch. And you got a kid who's standing behind him, who's never going to get a look because we're paying the quarterback so much money this year. He's never going to get a look. And down the road, somebody's going to offer him more money, and he's going to go. And so it's a kind of a conundrum with this Neal. So that being said, I'll listen for your comments. Thanks.
Yeah, Val, I appreciate it. Thank you. Have a great rest of your Sunday. That drive to start the third quarter, which was, I thought, the most important drive. I know the drive coming back, the 98-yard drive, which took up the rest of most of the third quarter, was important. But I thought that drive coming out, you needed to establish something. And real quick, Emmett Johnson, middle, 3 yards. Pass to Isaiah Hunter for 5. 3rd down and 2. Nice pass to Emmett Johnson coming out of the backfield. Makes 3 guys miss. Gets 12 yards. Then you're sitting there now, 1st and 10 at your 45-yard line. Emmett runs for a gain of 12 yards. Now you're 1st and 10 on the plus 43-yard line at that point. Incomplete. You had a pass to Barney, the only target Barney had the entire day. Pass to Barney. He got 1 yard. Then Dillon had the play of the game for him, in my opinion. Dane Key beats his man off the line of scrimmage. He is running down the right sideline. He is open. And Dillon overthrows him by probably 10 yards. He hits that touchdown pass right there, and it's a different game. All of a sudden, Minnesota's got to play a little different. Nebraska's got some energy, and it's a huge play. He missed 2 touchdowns to Dane Key. The fade to the end zone, which was a miss. He was wide open, and then he missed this one. And this one was huge because then on the next play, of course, Nebraska gets sacked. Archie Wilson punts down to the 1-2-yard line, and then, of course, they go on the drive. But that play right there made all the difference in the world. You hit that pass, which that's your job. You need to make that throw. And he doesn't make that throw. And then all of a sudden, you're in a situation where they're going on a 8-9 minute drive, taking up the rest of most of the third quarter. And you know where we went from there. A couple more calls before we take our first break. Of course, show is brought to you by our good friends at Equitable Bank, where they take banking personally and seriously too. I know it's personally, but they take it seriously. They don't play around. They know what they're doing, answering the phone on the first ring. And the man behind the mystery that is how they answer the phone on the first ring, old man Doug, joining us here on Severe Reaction. What's up, Doug?
Good morning. I'm glad it's Sunday. On my way to the golf course.
I know you are.
Here's what I'm most upset about. If we didn't have the Penn State and the rule thing going, and this was just a bad game, I would be a little less upset about it. But honestly, Dannon and Rule could have shut that down. This team wasn't mentally prepared to play. No one could tell me that Minnesota is that much more better than we are. Our line was supposed to be a strength, and it is difficult when you've got the quarterback's uncle as a coach. You're concerned, and I've got to think that unless it improves dramatically, Donnie won't be here next year, and if that brings Dillon somewhere else, then so be it. But at some point, I think we'll stand. But he just didn't do a good enough job. And those kids, they're kids. They're 18, 19 years old. They're like, they feel like, well, their parents are getting a divorce or something. And obviously, I'm not saying that's why Minnesota, but it was a factor. Obviously, they couldn't overcome it. And the thing I hate most in a press conference from a coach, when they had a putrid performance, is to say they didn't see it coming and they had great practice. So I don't buy it. So I'm going to listen to what you have to say.
Hey,
have a great Sunday.
And you have a great day on the golf course and have a great time with that. No, I think that honestly, I'm going to be honest as I can with you, sitting there listening to Matt Rule. I honestly believe he had no excuse or no way to explain the performance. I think this is a man who's never a loss for words. He was absolutely a law. You could see it in his face. I don't think he saw it coming. I don't think he understands what happened. I think now he does after watching tape and looking at it more. And I think Monday he'll talk a lot more about what happened. But I think right after the game, sitting there in that press conference, he had no answers. Zero. None. He didn't want to talk. He didn't want to make excuses. I know he didn't. So he tried to avoid that. But in the end, he just didn't have any answers to what happened. I don't think he understood what happened with the game plan. I think he doesn't understand how Nebraska got pushed around a little bit in the second half, starting with that 98-yard drive. I don't think he had any answers. And when you don't have any answers, you have this frustration where you just go to coach speak. And so I kind of get that a little bit. Jeff and Andrew, stay right there. We'll take a quick break. Our first break of the day. Of course, the show is also brought to you by Nebraska Medicine. Join our team at nebraskamed.com/careers. And as I mentioned, Equitable Bank, well, they take banking personally. We'll come right back. Jeff, Andrew, stay right there. We'll take your phone calls. More Severe Reaction here on 1620 The Zone.
Now, back to Severe Reaction, powered by Nebraska Medicine and Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Here's your host, Michael Severe, on 1620 The Zone.
2nd and 7 at the 27. Snap, handoff Taylor, circles right over tackle, squeezes through, burst to the second level across midfield. Taylor to the 40, 35-30, 25-20, foot race to the 10. Taylor dives into the end zone. Is he down short? I believe they'll say Taylor's down at the 1-yard line. He celebrates down to our right. Straight eye, Lindsey under center from the 1. Motion to tight end, right to left. A tush push over the center. Lindsey plunges near the goal line into a massive humanity. Is he in? No signal yet from either official. They're telling P.J. Fleck to get off the field. Now those Hands go skyward, touchdown Gophers. 1 yard sneak from Drake Lindsey. And Minnesota takes a 6-3 lead, 13:20 left in the second quarter.
Defensively, they gave up the one long touchdown. And other than that, they didn't really move the ball against us in the first half. It didn't, it felt like that at times, but they had 52 yards passing. They had, aside from that long run, they didn't have many yards rushing. So, but it definitely felt like we were on our heels, even though, and then obviously in the third quarter, the 4th and 1 defensive holding call was a really, really crucial call. Felt like we had them stopped. Everyone played the play, and but so defensively, I just we're on the field a lot.
Welcome back. Severe reaction here on 1620 The Zone, 402-951-1620. End of the first half. Coach Rhule was talking about this. So obviously it's 7-6 Minnesota. The first time all season versus a Power 4 team that they had a lead. They trailed Cal, they trailed Rutgers, they trailed Ohio State, they trailed Purdue. They had more yards, 154. I know 71 were on a run, but you can't take it away. They rushed for 6.8 yards because of that long run. They were 8 of 10 passing, not long passes, 52 yards. They were better on third down than Nebraska was. Nebraska was 1 of 6 on third down in the first half. They were 3 of 7. They ran 25 plays. Nebraska ran 29 plays. It was even, essentially, in the first half. It was even. It's even. You go in, you make your adjustments, you come out, you have the better adjustments, and you win the game. Simple. That's what needed to happen, and it didn't. Nebraska had a drive, had a good opportunity, had some chances, gave the ball back on a great punt and great down punt, and then proceeded to give up a bunch of plays that should not have gained as many yards as it did. Ends on the most elite throw of the day was the 20-yard fade to the corner, which almost was mocking Nebraska. It's a throw that Dillon hasn't really been able to make all year, and their redshirt freshman Drake Lindsey makes that throw, makes it perfectly for the touchdown to end up making it 14-6. Almost like mocking Nebraska. You tried to throw this route earlier, you overthrew it, we're going to throw it and throw it perfectly and drop it in the bucket. Absolutely drop it in the bucket. It was, again, play before that, though. The drive before that, Dillon had the opportunity to make the throw to Dane Key. It would have been a touchdown. He missed that throw. They get the ball back. Game changes. Let's go back to the phones. That's where Andrew is this morning. What's up, Drew? How you doing?
How you doing, Mr. Severe?
I'm all right. I know you're excited. Basketball season started, so you're all excited about that, I'm sure.
They look good. They got shooters upon shooters upon shooters.
And they didn't have Jackson McAndrew, right?
Right.
Their best shooter. Yeah. Okay.
Their best. So I've been harping for months that I understand the offensive line is suspect, beyond suspect. And Raiola's been here coaching that forever. Any other college program would probably fire him by now. And we know why he's not fired by now. The monkey in the room. The elephant in the room, I mean.
Damn, wow. Damn, Drew. That's kind of mean.
Yeah.
Call that man a monkey.
But why Dillon isn't worth the squeeze. I'm telling, he cannot throw a long ball to save his life. And that the key throw a few times was, he has a problem with the long throws. And I will say it, we're being held hostages by the Raiola because we can't fire his uncle because we're afraid he's going to go. I mean, does it even matter at this point? Are we getting the return we sought out of having a terrible offensive line coach? That's all I've got to say.
Drew, have a great rest of your Sunday.
Yeah, you too, bud.
Now I'm going to proceed to defend Donovan Raiola in a couple of different ways. So if you look back at last year, I thought they overachieved with their offensive line, with the injuries they had, who they were playing, having to start Gunnar Gatula at left tackle. I thought actually they played pretty well. I think if you look at the grades, whether you want to look at PFF or just individual grades of watching them play, they actually played pretty well last year. I think when they're completely healthy, they can be a decent offensive line. Yes, they have struggles at the tackle spot. Pritchard can lose occasionally his concentration. Gatula has struggled. You probably need to go back to Prohaska there at the right tackle spot. Spindler was a huge part of the interior of this thing. He's a leader. He's a really good guard. You lose him. Now you're in a situation where you're playing Tyler Kanak at a guard spot that I don't think he's ever played. Not in a game that mattered, ever played there. All of a sudden you're in a situation where you're playing with a 5-man offensive line who's probably never even practiced together. And that made it look worse than it was. I will say that there are times, and it happens a lot because of the pressure, and it's something that Dylan needs to work on, is that he starts seeing some ghosts, and there's plays where the pressure isn't there, and he still starts to leave the pocket because he feels he's been there too long, instead of letting things open, and decides he's going to do the runaround thing. And the runaround thing isn't always necessary, because times where he runs into pressure, which happened 4 or 5 times on Friday night. So that's got to get better. The offensive line, yeah, sure. They need better tackles. They need to be better overall. They're not a great offensive line. They're not a very good offensive line. I think healthy, they can be a good offensive line. Anyway, with all that said, I don't think we're going to see a firing of Donovan Raiola. I don't. And I don't think a ton of it, all of it, is on him. I think the play calling, the game planning, especially on Friday night, wasn't very good. I think you get limited when Spindler goes out and Pritchard gets ejected, and all of a sudden you have to change what you're doing, and I don't think they did a very good adjustment on that. There's a lot into it, a lot into offensive line play, man. And I'll tell you, the majority of us have no idea what's happening on offensive line. We don't. We think we know. We can watch clips. We think. You don't know, man. You just don't know. It's the most complicated thing that happens on every down basis during a football game, what's happening on offensive line. So with all that said, it needs to get a whole lot better. It does. I get it. It needs to get a whole lot better. But at this point, you're not bringing any free agents in. This is what you got. You got to fix this for what you have. Hopefully Spindler's not out for the season with that finger injury. You hope that Pritchard can keep his concentration in. You got to do something at right tackle. It's probably going to Prohaska, or it's going to Turner Corcoran. You got to figure out what you're going to do at guard. I mean, you don't want to ever move your center, but the best guard probably on the team after Spindler is probably your starting center. Do you want to bring in Sam Sledge and make him your center and move Evans over to guard? I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that needs to happen this week before you play Northwestern. Let's take a phone call before we take a break. Let's go to Jeff. Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
Good morning, Michael. How are you?
I'm okay, man.
Great. So.
Good.
Hey, what's the definition of insanity?
Doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result.
Exactly. So when you know your line is not that good,
yeah.
Why? How many times did we put anybody in motion Friday?
I'd say probably 40% of the time. I just rewatched the game this morning. I'd say probably 40% of the time, okay. but never gave the jet motion one time, which I was surprised by.
Right. So that's mine. It's like if you know your line's not very good, then you have to get plays where you don't rely on your line. Mm-hmm. And the problem I have with Raiola is I don't think he's reads the defense very well. I think, when he sees, he doesn't check out of a play. He doesn't go to a hot route very often. I think that's where he needs to improve tremendously. I feel sorry for Emmett. I thought he played a heck of a game.
Yeah.
He tried to put the team on but there's just nothing he could do. And you're right. And this game, this is what we need to realize with Minnesota. Fleck circles this game every time it's on the calendar.
Sure.
And he could lose every game during the season and beat Nebraska, and he would be happy with that.
Yeah.
We have to mentally prepare that they are going to give us their best game of the season. And we haven't done that now in almost 8 years. So we just got to get used. That's how he coaches his team, Nebraska. And you're right. This was a complete team loss from the players to the coaches. And we just need to fix it. We can beat, there's still teams we can beat.
Sure.
If we write these things that are wrong. So.
All right. Hey, Jeff,
and
I appreciate
final thing is.
Oh, go ahead, man. Sorry.
Should I be worried about the Bears against the Saints today?
So I would say that I could see the Saints covering it, keeping it close, but I think the Bears win it outright. I picked all my pick'em leagues. I took the Bears to win outright. I could see keeping it close.
We got to keep that Saints under going.
You know,
All
the
right.
thing about the funny
Hey,
thing about
Michael.
the Saints is that their pass rush has gotten much better. So expect Kalen Williams to be running for his life a little bit today, more than you'd expect against a bad team.
All right.
All right.
All right. Well, go Bears.
Okay.
See you, Mike.
See you. Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate that. Thanks for the call. He mentioned it. Northwestern next. They just beat Purdue 19-0. Purdue, a team that could have easily beaten Minnesota. I have not watched that game yet, so I do want to go back and watch, but I do know that Northwestern ran the hell out of the ball yesterday. USC, yes, shot themselves in the foot against Notre Dame, made some horrible decisions down the stretch. They're going to come in with probably the best offense Nebraska will see all year. And then UCLA just won their third in a row, came back, came from behind, made big plays at the end to win the game. And, of course, Iowa did Iowa things, went down late, beat Penn State on Peacock, and got the win there, 25-24. So that's what you got coming up. Plus, a trip to Penn State. You have no idea what you're going to have there. All of that still coming up. So it could be, as we say, it could be Barney. It could be Rubble. They could be in trouble. One more call before we take a break. Go ahead, Eric. What's happening, man?
Hey, good morning. It's funny, the last two guys that were speaking were kind of going to say the same thing I did, so I won't repeat all that.
Okay, that's all right.
But one thing I noticed, I've been at the games at Minnesota the last, 3 or 4 times they played up there.
Mm-hmm.
And they do, just for whatever reason, they don't care more about this game than they do Iowa.
Right.
But they just have a special something when we're playing up there or playing them that Fleck just wants that game. And it seems like Nebraska doesn't. It doesn't seem like we bring the same energy against some of these other Big Ten teams that the Minnesota does, or Northwestern does, or Iowa does. I don't know. I don't understand it. And the one thing that I think Andrew said earlier,
yeah,
I kind of feel the same way, is I do feel like we're kind of held hostage by the Rayolas. They were stuck with Dylan at quarterback. They're not going to try anybody different. His uncle's not going anywhere. His younger brother is supposedly coming as a recruit.
Yeah.
I mean, we could have Donnie Raiola as the offensive line coach for another 5 years. And it's got to change. And it won't change. And I just feel like nothing with this team is going to change as long as we just get the same thing over and over again up front. But anyway, thank you. Have a good one.
You too, Eric. I appreciate it. Okay, I know, and I completely understand that the backup quarterback is often the most popular person in the fan base. I get that. Take yourself out of being a Nebraska fan and think of being any of the other teams in the Big Ten who are sitting at 5-2. Do you really think they're benching their starting quarterback? Northwestern, who struggled early, mightily, has stuck with Preston Stone. Right? They stuck with him throughout all his struggles. They're winning games, so they're sticking with him. I know Nebraska just lost to Minnesota. They're not pulling their starting quarterback, who before Friday was one of the top-rated quarterbacks in not just the Big Ten, but he was a top 25 quarterback in the country. You're not going to do it. I understand. You want to see TJ Lateef. I get that. TJ Lateef came in against Akron and Houston Christian and showed you something. I completely understand it. But nobody's pulling their quarterback in this situation. They're just not. I get what you're thinking. I know. You don't like having a quarterback that is immobile. You don't like having the situation where he's not necessarily reading things very well. You don't like the fact that he's seeing ghosts. I get all of that. You're not pulling your quarterback at this time. If you're 2-5, yes, you're probably thinking about putting your backup in. But at 5-2, you're not. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll go over more of that mess of a game that it was. Some good, a lot of bad, and the biggest criminal coaching malfeasance of the season for Nebraska. We'll get to that as well. We come back here. It's a very reaction, of course, brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally, and Nebraska Medicine, where you can join the team at nebraskamed.com/careers. Back here on Severe Reaction on 1620 The Zone.
Now, back to Severe Reaction, powered by Nebraska Medicine and Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Here's your host, Michael Severe, on 1620 The Zone.
Barney slot left, Hunter wide left. Raiola takes the shotgun snap on a four-man rush. Looks right, pocket crumbles, tucks it, runs, gets tripped up, just shovels it downfield. It's caught right at the sticks at the 15-yard line. DR getting inventive on a shot put downfield to the 15-yard line.
Yeah, it sucks, when you lose your top guys and, guys come in and rotate. I thought they did a fair job. It's just hard. I mean, we got to scratch and claw and find ways to move the football and put points up. So, 6 points is pretty brutal, and I'll take that one. I'll take all the blame. I'll take all the hate. That's fine. That's part of my job, and that's why I'm here.
Welcome back to Reaction here on 1620 The Zone, 402-951-1620. Minnesota blitzed on 15 of the 38 passing plays. I would actually say more than 38 passing plays. If you add in some of his runs, obviously you add in the sacks, and I mean, you could honestly say there's almost 45 passing plays, kind of. But Raiola had 0 turnover-worthy plays in the game. Obviously, they lost 24-6. His worst part of his game was he just didn't throw the ball well down the field. So over 20 yards, he only had 1 completion. He was, 1 of 6 or 1 of 5 throwing the ball over 20 yards. His average depth of throw was 10.2 yards down the field. It 4 screen passes. They ran 7 play action passes of the 38 called passing plays. I understand. People are pissed. I get it. I understand completely. I am telling you, and you don't have to believe me. I don't care. I really don't. I'm telling you, the opponent coaching staff would be elated for Nebraska to start the backup quarterback over Dylan Raiola. You don't believe it? I get it. They would be elated. Elated. Just because you saw TJ Lateef against Houston Christian and Akron. I like the kid. He's athletic. I think he throws a good ball. I liked him coming in as a recruit. Great footwork. Does a lot of good things. They are game planning against a quarterback who they think is one of the best quarterbacks in the Big Ten. And the whole team is struggling. Play calling struggling. Offensive line is struggling. And Isaiah Hunter's got to make that catch down the sideline. Everybody's struggling. The defense is struggling with tackling. Everybody but the special teams is struggling. Pulling the starting quarterback and playing an inexperienced backup quarterback who they would be very excited to see is not the answer to the question. It's not. Everybody needs to play better, yes. Pulling your starting quarterback is not the answer. And I know people are upset. I've been there. I'm a fan. I get it. I understand completely. Been there. Yelled for backup quarterbacks many times. I'll never forget Texas Tech, Nebraska. I yelled for Bo Davis to come in the game. And you know what Callahan did? He put Bo Davis in the game and let Bo throw. And he threw 4 interceptions. Seen it many times. I've yelled for backup quarterbacks for the Saints to come in. And they've come in. And it's looked worse. I don't know what to tell you. I understand. Dylan Raiola is not perfect. He is not. I put a thing up on Twitter showing you a play where it was a wheel route to Mosey that I bet you they set up for probably a couple of weeks. And that throw's got to be made. And instead, he saw some pressure coming from his right side. So he kind of takes off. He ends up getting a sack. I'd love to see him throw that wheel and see what happens. But he didn't. At that point, he'd been sacked 6 times. I'm sure he's seeing ghosts. They were playing Tyler Knack left guard. He hadn't played there all year. They lost the second best offensive lineman on their team in Rocco Spindler. Their starting left tackle was kicked out of the game. All that was happening, and you're yelling about putting in the backup quarterback in that situation? He doesn't even know the whole offense. He doesn't. I guarantee you he doesn't get enough snaps to know the whole offense. Yeah, whatever. Let's go back to Mike. Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Good. How are you doing, Michael?
I'm doing well.
I need you to save me some money and be my counselor.
Okay.
You know, I was really surprised at my reaction, and it has nothing to do with any players in particular, but all week long I was excusing, you know, the coach's dance with Penn State. Well, he's just trying to use some leverage to get some more NIL money, you know, and making excuses. And he picked a really poor week to do the dance with Penn State, in my opinion. And I can accept losses. You know, we've gotten pretty good at accepting losses for 20 years. But after that performance by the team, I kind of got really angry at Matt Rule.
Yeah.
Thinking after only 3 years, you know, in my opinion, for right or wrong, and he has to do what's right for him and his family. I get it. But I was surprisingly angry after the game, thinking, you know, less than 3 years, you're doing that dance. You should have come out on day one. And it had nothing to do with the loss. I'm not saying it had anything to do with the loss. But I felt like we've done anything you wanted, given you any money. I just feel like he should have said on Monday, I'm not going anywhere. This is where I want to be. And so I was really disappointed in him, for right or wrong. Do you think there's that feeling out there? It kind of reminded me, and it's really not it's more apples to oranges, but it almost reminded me of Danny Nee when he acted like he was going to Rutgers before he had the job. And then he didn't get the job, if you remember that time frame. And that kind of buried what was left of Danny Nee. People really took offense to that he was saying, you need to hire Jimmy Williams when I'm gone, and he didn't have the job. Anyway, I was very angry at Matt Rule after that game. Just like you to comment on that.
Yeah. Mike, I appreciate the call, and I don't go back to Danny Nee. I remember the time, and I know of his coaching, and obviously I've read the stuff about him, but I don't necessarily know about that. But I will tell you this, that I don't necessarily think I don't normally get in people's business, you know, and that's a business thing. That's a money thing. That's his future of his family thing and all of that. I don't know what he was supposed to say on Monday. I get what you're saying. I don't know what he was supposed to say on Monday. He could have come out and said that, yes. And still, like other coaches, I'll never forget Nick Saban coming out as the LSU coach and saying he wasn't leaving. He wasn't going anywhere. I know the rumors out there in my mind said he wasn't going. Listen to me, read my lips. I'm not leaving. And he was gone the next week. So I know you can still say you're not going and leave. I don't know what he was supposed to say there. I thought he handled it okay on Monday. I thought he elaborated more on Thursday on McAfee's show. I thought what he said there was fairly convincing, but I know people aren't happy with it. I get it. I completely understand. We'll take a break. We'll come back. Bill, stay right there. I'll get you on the other side. Severe Reaction brought to you by Equitable Bank, where we take banking personally, and brought to you by Nebraska Medicine. Join our team at nebraskamed.com/careers. We'll get back to the phone calls. Bill and whoever's on hold, we come back here on Severe Reaction on 1620 Zone.
Now, back to Severe Reaction, powered by Nebraska Medicine and Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Here's your host, Michael Severe, on 1620 The Zone.
14th play of this Gopher drive that started at their own 2, now at the Husker 20. 2 receivers left, one of the right is Brockington. Lindsey corrals the shotgun snap, back in 1, fade route, far right side of the end zone, caught over the shoulder. It's Brockington, makes the catch with Donovan Jones on his hip. Touchdown, Gophers. 20-yard connection. Makes it 13-6. Minnesota with 2:36 to go in the third.
At halftime we just kept saying tackling. I mean, like, they ran running shallow crosses first man, and we were, missing the tackles. Even the long touchdown run has to get tackled. Like, you have to tackle those plays. We have the players to do it. We have to make those plays. And so, but it wasn't any one play. It was just, John had 5 D linemen in there, and you need to make a play, make a negative play, and we just were never able to do it. And then offensively, I don't want to make it anything more, at least for today. I'll talk to you guys on Monday, obviously, but for me, it was anything more than just blocking and catching and making a play. I mean, we got the ball down the red zone twice, and we don't score, and early in the game, I mean, those are plays. You like to get 14-3 in that, or 14-7 in that first half. So. I just think it was just they were just absolutely the better team tonight, and we never took advantage of anything the whole night.
Welcome back to the reaction here on 1620 The Zone. All right, it's a look at Dylan's games. Okay, let's go back. We'll go back to the loss at Michigan. He was 30 of 41 for 308 yards. He completed 73% of his passes. He had 3 touchdowns and 1 interception. Against Michigan State, he was 16 of 24 for 194 yards. He completed 67% of his passes. He was 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He was sacked 5 times in that game. By the way, the Michigan game, he was sacked 7 times. In the Maryland game, he was 20 of 29 for 260 yards, almost 70% completion rate. Threw 4 touchdowns. He had 3 interceptions. He was sacked once. And then against Minnesota, he was 17 of 25 for 177, 68% completion rate. No touchdowns, no interceptions. For the season, he has thrown for a little bit under 1,800 yards. He is at 73% completion rate. He's got 16 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. He's been sacked 25 times. Okay. Yeah. I can understand it. He's playing horrible. I mean, I'm looking at the numbers. I mean, he's playing horrible. I get it. Yeah. Let's go back to the phones. Go, Bill. Good morning, Bill. How are you? Bill, are you there? Bill. All right, let's go to Scott. Good morning, Scott. How are you?
I'm good, Michael. How are you?
I'm fine, man. I'm good.
I feel bad for Bill, but this one way for me to get bumped up in line. Hey, Michael, you could kind of see this brewing.
Yep.
The 2 games prior to this, right? I honestly think without Emmett, the way he's played, I think very realistically we're 3-4, and of course Dylan's been a big part of that as well. Thought Emmett actually had a really good game, averaged 4.5. I know our defense gave up the gas run, but without the gas run, they give up 3 per carry, and I can live with that even against Minnesota. But what I wanted to get your opinion on, Michael, is we are where we are. We can't fix some things in season,
right?
Recruiting and development's a little tough this deep into the season. Right now, to get 3 out of the next 5 wins, which I think is a decent goal. What are the top 3 things you think need to get done? I always appreciate your comment. Have a great weekend. Bye.
You too, Scott. I appreciate it, man. Thank you. And then the number one thing that needs to get done above everything else is, and we got to take a break because we got to get to Steve Sipple, but the number one thing is they've got to establish the run game like they did against Maryland. Whoever they play, you got to come in with the idea that we're establishing the run game. We're establishing the run game. We can slow down the pass rush. Along with that, we're running more screens. We're moving the pocket to help as well with the offensive line. We're doing all of those things. That's the number one thing offensively that needs to happen. On defense, the tackling's got to get better. The tackling's been struggling for 3 weeks. It really has. I mean, you can actually go all the way back. Go back to Michigan State and look at the tackle numbers and then go forward. The tacklers are been struggling, so you've got to tackle better. And then I think the third thing is really in terms of Dylan Raiola, deep balls and deep ball accuracy has got to get better. It's got to. And he's also got to make sure that, when I'm in the pocket and something comes open quickly, I've got to let it go. And all this running around and stuff and scrambling around needs to be limited. You need to stand in the pocket. And yes, you're going to take some shots. I know that. But let things come open and make throws. Those are the 3 biggest things. You got to get all three of those done. I think Northwestern is a really good defense. We'll go over a preview of them later. I know USC is a high-powered offense that even when they're deciding to have a wide receiver pass in the rain, which was stupid yesterday, they can move the ball on anybody. And UCLA all of a sudden has more confidence than any team in the Big Ten, maybe, other than Ohio State. So going to Penn State, coming home for Iowa, yeah, it's not going to be easy, But, hey, you got to get those things fixed. That's your job. That's why you get paid the big bucks as coaches, to get that fixed. One more call before we take a break. Let's go to Jeff. Good morning, Jeff.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good. Those people that don't want Dillon as quarterback, you can just ignore them. They're silly. That doesn't make any sense. I would like a more mobile quarterback for sure, but he's the guy. Second of all, it's kind of the same question, but I don't understand why, if we're getting beat up on the line like that, why aren't we doing more quick hitches, draws, screen plays, quick slants, something to just, change the game plan a little bit. And then kind of along the same lines, I know they made a big deal of this over the last couple of broadcasts about how Dana, when he came in, he didn't bring in his air raid offense and tried to adapt to what these people do. Well, why not? I mean, the air raid's been pretty darn successful in putting up offensive numbers. Why wouldn't we do that? That seems like a perfect fit for someone take the offense that Mahomes was most successful in and give it to the junior Mahomes and see what he can do.
Yeah, I don't know. He hasn't run the air raid in a long time. I don't know why they keep bringing that up. His last place that he coached, he didn't run the air raid there. So it's not really his system anymore. He runs the ball now more than air raid teams do. So I don't think that he would ever go back to what he ran, what he learned under Mike Leach. I don't think he'd ever go back to that. Don't listen to the announcers. The announcers are horrible. We get the worst collection of announcers for Nebraska games. It's brutal to watch and to listen to. It's so bad.
Pretty bad.
It's really bad. It's depressing. So, Jeff, I appreciate the call. I understand what you're saying. I get that. Real quick before we take a break, Dillon versus Power 5 teams, right? Power 5 teams. He is 72% passing for almost 1,200 yards, 7.3 yards an attempt, 10 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. His quarterback rating is 148.01. He is averaging, against Power 5 teams, 237 yards passing a game. 72% completion rate, almost 1,200 yards, 10 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Of course, 3 of those came in one of those games. That's versus Power 5 teams. That's taking out Akron. That's taking out Houston Christian. Power 5 teams. Those are your numbers you're talking about. In the month of October, just October, 67%, actually 68% completion rate, 631 yards, averaging 8.1 yards attempt. That's up. He's got the 5 touchdowns, the 4 interceptions, 3 happened in one game, and he's averaging 210 yards passing a game. That's where he is. They're not pulling him. They're not pulling him for a guy with 0 experience playing at this level. Take a break. We come back. We'll talk to Steve Sipple here on Severe Reaction on 1620 The Zone.
Now, back to Severe Reaction, powered by Nebraska Medicine and Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Here's your host, Michael Severe, on 1620 The Zone.
They are really pre-snap not giving Dillon a clean read here.
Husker 22, Johnson back in as the running back, 3rd and 5. 2 receivers each way. Crowd grows in volume. Raiola claims the snap. Blitzer up the middle. EJ got blown up. So did DR. Blown up. Matt Kingsbury sacked Raiola back at the 14. 7th sack. Ties a season worst from this Nebraska offensive line. He was a free rusher, and he just ran over Emmett Johnson.
Holy moly.
In the middle of the third quarter, I keep track of the running back. We averaged like 4.5 yards a carry. But I mean, the sacks were just such threats. You're in 3rd and 2, and it's a sack, and Dillon just got beat up, and there was just a lot of like free runners, a lot of guys. Him getting Emmett. I thought Emmett was really good again tonight. Just getting hit in the backfield. A lot of. They did a lot of things. I came in knowing I knew they were going to blitz us. I said, hey, they're going to blitz you. They're going to pressure you, and we had some RPOs built in to try to beat it. Some checks try to beat it. We never really beat it, and.
Welcome back. Severe Reaction here on 1620 The Zone. Hour number 2 brought to you by Equitable Bank, where we take banking personally, and by Nebraska Medicine. Join our team at nebraskamed.com/careers, 402-951-1620. We're trying to get a hold of Sip. We'll see if we can get a hold of him. I will start with saying that if you want to talk about anything good in this game, it has to go to special teams, which is a long way away from where Nebraska was and we were as people talking about this team over the last 4 or 5 years. Kyle Kananen hit 2 more field goals. Archie Wilson did a good job punting. The coverage teams did a good job as well. It really shows you that if you commit and you bring in the right coach, you obviously can succeed at special teams. And we saw that. But I want to go over some of the things that just were the biggest question marks after watching the game a second time, after watching the game live, being there in Minnesota. But the Ja'Cory Barney only getting 1 target. And I know that that's not where everything would start for most people, but an engine is only as good as the one part that makes it go. You take out a spark plug, you take out a piston, whatever else, an engine won't go, right? Ja'Cory Barney is that ignition for the actual engine. He gets it started. And there's times with players, some players, where you have to say, look, we're getting him the ball. Either this play is designed for him, or he's the first option on this play, or we're running a jet motion with him, or we're doing something with him where he gets the ball. He can't have one touch. He just can't. He's too important to the flow of the offense. Everything flows off of Ja'Cory Barney. He's got to get the ball. That's a problem. Emmett Johnson, not touching the ball on the first drive is seriously coaching malpractice. The first drive of the game in Minneapolis against Minnesota with a guy who can't wait to go against this team, and he doesn't touch the ball on the first drive, inexcusable. I don't get it. I'm sure the offensive coordinator was thinking to himself, you know what? They expect us to run the ball. We're not running the ball. We're going to come out throwing the ball. That's probably what he was thinking. No, man. This is college football. Your guy better than their guy. Go do it over and over again. That's the way it works. Emmett Johnson didn't touch the ball in the first drive. He had 9 carries for 35 yards in the first half. So you go to halftime. You're like, okay, we're down 7-6. We've got to get touches to Emmett Johnson. And I know there was a limited amount of drives, 2 drives for Nebraska. The first drive, which ended in a throw that probably should have been a touchdown to Dane Key. And then, of course, it ended. And then you had the drive after the long drive by Minnesota. I get that. But still, third quarter, Emmett had 2 rushes for 15 yards and a nice screenplay where he made a couple guys miss for 12. So 3 touches in the third quarter. Limited amount of time. I'm getting Emmett Johnson touches. I'm getting Ja'Cory Barney touches, and I'm getting Emmett Johnson touches coming out of the halftime. Number 3, I'm sure there was a game plan. I'm sure they were going to try to attack Minnesota at its weakest point. I'm positive. Dylan Raiola, for at least 38 plays, had pass calls that were sent in or adjusted to before the snap of the ball. That's sacks, runs attempts, 38 pass plays versus a team that was giving up 170 some yards in conference play on the ground, that had given up 260 something against Purdue, that in the last 2 weeks hadn't gotten a lot of pass pressure, but in the first 4 weeks they were playing, they did, right? They did. We saw that. We saw them get 14 sacks. We saw that. We saw the pressure they put in. So, again, can't stop the run, has a potential to be able to get to your passer. You're then down 2 of your offensive linemen and 38 pass plays. And you're only down 7-6 at halftime. You're only down 14-6 when you got a chance to get them stopped on 4th down to get the ball back to go and tie the game. Again, you've lost Rocco Spindler. You've lost Pritchett. I don't understand. You got a makeshift offensive line, and you're continuing to drop them back to passes. I don't understand why they did that. The Tuesday press conference should be interesting, finding out what was the thought pattern was there. Overall for the game, Emmett Johnson, 19 offensive touches for 100 yards from scrimmage. I'd love to see in that game, knowing he's going back home, knowing his motivation, 25 touches minimum. Johnson had 4 runs of 10-plus yards. 45 of his 63 yards came after contact, courtesy of PFF. Fourth thing, tackling. Nebraska this is from PFF, 12 missed tackles, and it felt like a whole lot more, in my opinion. 7 came from the secondary. Donovan Jones struggled mightily on the game. But you had Sierra, right, that missed a tackle that was a big one. You had guys that came up and made tackles, but still there were 3-4 yards of leaky yardage in it that got a first down. That happened too much. One of the things that really, and by the way, Watson Trent had his best game as a Husker, but they took advantage of him in the middle of the field in coverage a couple times because he's just not that quick. And it allowed them to get the ball in the middle of the field. You get him isolated, and he's not going to be able to he's not going to be able to cover. He's not going to be able to get in there and knock the ball away or even try to make a play on the ball. So that was a struggle. And then the last thing is havoc. Again, you can talk all you want about the offensive line, and you are. And you can talk as much as you want about the starting quarterback, and you are. This is a defensive line. This is a defense overall that had 1 sack. I believe they touched the quarterback 3 times, and they had 3 tackles for loss in the whole damn game. Again, talk about the offensive line. Complain about that. Talk about firing the offensive line coach. Talk about benching the quarterback. Talk about all of that. Noweri had 0 quarterback pressure for the first time this season. Gabe Morp had to play a lot. He struggled. Overall, the grade of the defensive line, whether you're talking about PFF or you're just watching the game, it's not good enough. Just not good enough. Too many times they had 3-man pressure, right? They had a 3-man front. We're going to go get pressure on that. And they got nowhere near him. And you got a guy who is a really good passer at 15 yards and in, really 10 yards and in. And you're just giving him the opportunity to stand back there and make throws. Even a redshirt freshman that's an okay quarterback can operate in that system. That was a huge issue in the game, the lack of havoc. And it was and I get it. People are pissed. It was a brutal night overall. You're sitting there and you're in front of a national audience. You're going against a team that really is the last team in the Big Ten that you need to get a win over, right? If you're going to come in 23 as Matt Rule and this coaching staff, there's certain things you need to exercise the demons, and you need to beat Iowa, and you need to figure out a way to beat Wisconsin, right? Teams that have kind of owned you. Well, Minnesota's the other team. And so you're a fan base who travels there, you watch it on TV, you've got a watch party, and they perform like that. Yeah, I understand why you're upset. The return on investment is poor, incredibly poor in this situation on national television on a Friday night, and Nebraska plays the worst game. Well, offensively, I thought the worst game of the season. But I want to talk about the thing that bothered me the most in the game. And we're going to take a break. We come back. We'll talk about this. The thing that bothered me by far the most in the game and was the biggest example of coaching malfeasance, malpractice, whatever else. We'll do that. It's brought to you by Equitable Bank, where we take banking personally. Also brought to you by Nebraska Medicine. Join our team, nebraskamed.com/career. We'll do all that when we come back here on Severe Reaction on 1620 The Zone.
Now, back to Severe Reaction, powered by Nebraska Medicine and Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Here's your host, Michael Severe, on 1620 The Zone.
35. Husker 20. Crowd getting into it. Two wide right, solo man left. Barney in motion right to left. Snap fire back to Raiola. All day to throw. Pats his feet in a great pocket. Slides out left to the hash marks. Now under pressure. Slides back right. Rolls to the near right, throws right, caught Lindenmeyer at the 40, and he's tripped up at the 46-yard line. The Luke chance rained down in a big gain out to the 46, and a third down conversion, 21 yards for number 44. 2nd and 6. At the 23, ball splits the hash mark. Snap from under center. Raiola rolls to his right under pressure. Throws lefty to Lindenmeyer in the flat at the 25. Zigzags for a first. Luke Lindenmeyer gets it to the 35. What can't DR do?
We just got beat flat out. We just got beat. I don't know. I have to go back and watch it, but, we got outplayed. As simple as that.
Welcome back. Severe Reaction here on 1620 The Zone, 402-951-1620. Yes, Nebraska got outplayed. I think they got out-prepared. I think that they had a week that was very strange, and whether it be, a short week coming off of Maryland, going on back-to-back road trips or whatever else, and then also, all of the talk about what was going to happen with their head coach, and, you can say all you want about you don't read it or you don't listen to it. It's out there. I mean, there's never been a generation that's more connected to what's happening in the world than a generation right now, and so there's no way they could miss it. you're going to see it, and your coach is going to be talking about it. He talked about it on Monday. He talked about it on Thursday a little bit, and talked about it, of course, on Wednesday, and McAfee's show as well. He talked about it. It's going to be heard. It is, and that's part of, I think, what led to what happened on Friday night. Let's go back to the phones where Tony's been holding. Good morning, Tony.
Michael, good morning. In my time of being a Husker fan, this one is going to rank up there as a bad loss and a one that I'm not going to forget about.
Sure.
And what upsets me the most is the fact that you were playing a team where if you had some adversity, you've shown in the past this season, you can overcome it. I don't like how down things got for all the players. And I think you got accountability across the board, players and coaches here. Yeah. And what scares me for the rest of the season is I don't know what the result is now. I don't know now if the quarterback is going to be playing to go somewhere else. I don't know if the coach is going to be going somewhere else. All I know is the fans, we're here all the time. And I appreciate distractions that go on in life for people. But what I don't like is when those distractions aren't handled. And when you are in this program, you play for Nebraska, and this goes back generations, and we stand for a certain work ethic. We go for two. We do everything that we've done in the past, and our past represents a lot of who we are. Not that we're not willing to change, but our past is what we're most proud of. And I am very concerned now moving forward that, in my opinion, if we don't beat Northwestern, I don't know if we're going to go to a bowl game, because I don't believe anymore in this team's resolve. I don't like the quit. And I haven't seen a Nebraska team this season quit like that. Even against Michigan, they were still that fight. And I can't imagine that just this whole idea of the coaching rumor would make a team become this down or they quit. They quit. And I don't understand. I didn't think this team was capable of quitting. Can't believe the final score. Very concerned about the future. And it's just not who I thought this team was. That's what concerns me the most. Appreciate you, Michael. Have a good morning.
All right. Thanks, Tony. I appreciate it. You too. No, I get completely what you're saying. Half the teams that played yesterday and played Friday night lost. That's what happens. Half the team loses. There's a USC fan base right now that's sitting out there going, how do we have a lead at 24-21 or whatever, and then we're down 3, and how do we run a wide receiver pass play in the rain? How do we at 4th and inches decide we're going to throw the ball instead of running it? I'm sure there's a Penn State fan base out there right now that just lost again to Iowa that is pretty upset and pretty sad about themselves, and there's a Purdue fan base that was probably pretty excited about the way they've been playing, and they got shut out 19-0. There's a Michigan State fan base right now that is in complete turmoil from where they thought they were going to be in year 2 under their head coach. I get it. I understand being upset. I do. And I don't think it's ever as bad as we think it is. And when it's good, I don't think it's ever as good as we think it is. And Nebraska's sitting there right now in a situation where it feels really, really bad coming off of that loss. And if you turn around and you beat Northwestern next week, you're going to feel much better with USC coming to town. If you lose it, it's going to be even worse. It's the way football is, man. It's brutal. It's brutal week-to-week slog of pain and suffering. And as a person who grew up a Saints fan, I know that better than most. Let's go back to the phones where Logan is. Good morning, Logan. How are you?
Good, Michael. How are you, man?
I'm doing really well. I love the name Logan. It's a great name.
Thanks, man. I usually always get asked, hey, were you named after Logan's Run? And I'm like, I have no idea. Like, born in the 80s, I would imagine, I guess.
I wouldn't ask you that. I would ask you, are you named after Wolverine? Because Logan's name in the X-Men. That's how my kid got his name.
Yeah, I get that one a lot, too.
Yeah.
So I got two quick things for you.
Sure.
And then I will just hang up and listen. The first thing is like, Tim Brando, I swear, is the worst to listen to. Like we had to have back-to-back of that.
Yeah.
But he said twice in back-to-back games something that I was like, whoa, the first time I heard it, I'm like, did I hear that right? And the second time he said it in the next game, I'm like, okay, so this makes sense. Satterfield's play calling and playbook was so terrible that we went and got Dana Holgerson and put him in the middle of the season. And then they say in both games that Dana decided to stick with that playbook, and I'm thinking we should have burned that thing back last year. So, like, why in the world are we sticking to that thing? Because it feels like there is no rhythm to the play calling.
Logan, you know that's not true, right? You know that is not true. We know that Dana altered a little bit last season and then spent an entire month of redoing the playbook while everybody was out recruiting. We've talked about this, and we've seen the difference in production overall. So I don't know what Tim Brando's talking about. He lives in a fantasy world sometimes while he's calling a game. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. But, I think maybe that fake hairdo he's got on top of his head is probably hurting his brain.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, yes, you see more screens and things like that.
Yeah.
But it does feel so like, I don't know, like I expected so much more because with Satterfield, there was that, like, it had no rhythm to the play calling. And then it was like when Dana took over, it's like, okay, but I can't tell you what they're trying to do on offense. Like, yes, we've got great playmakers, but I feel like we don't, like, why aren't we hitting slants and digs and just short plays when we know that the offensive line is struggling and things? And it's like, I don't know. It just feels like it's right there in front of them, and they miss the forest for the trees. But also, like, I know that Dana's forgotten more football than I'll ever know. The other thing I was gonna say is like, hearing the other guy that was right before me just saying how much this loss, hurt and makes you question. And I get that as a fan. Like, I'm screaming at the TV like everybody else is. I think what really makes this loss hard more than anything is watching back-to-back weeks of two bad running teams run it down your throat.
Yeah.
And there's no answer for it. And so I just feel like there's been a lot of kind of smoke and mirrors that we've been able to hide. And I think we've kind of lied to ourselves as fans, pulling out wins where it's like, yeah, that's great. And then you start to see, oh no, like, we're not good. And so anyway, I'll just hang up and listen to the rest of your reaction. Thanks.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you, Logan. And I said that, last segment, the run defense and the lack of havoc and the lack of being able to affect the quarterback is one of my biggest concerns. With all the other things we talk about, I think that's the biggest thing that you really need to worry about is the fact that Maryland had one play total of runs over 20 plus, and they got that within a half against Nebraska. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, Minnesota had 0, or they had 1. And then obviously the 71-yard one with missed tackles. So yeah, that's got to be, in my opinion, one of the biggest concerns that we don't necessarily talk about. In terms of short passes, yesterday Nebraska was 16 of 19 on passes 1 yard to 14 yards. So they actually are pretty efficient underneath. It's the one for 5 on 15 plus. So deep balls have been the issue. But again, 16 of 19 for 1 to 14 yards. That's pretty damn efficient. You like that. And they're doing more of that. We'll take another quick break because we're getting behind a little bit. Hopefully we can get a hold of Steve Sipple, Michael, Dave, and Game Dog. Stay right there. We'll come back. 1620 The Zone.
Lindsey corrals the snap. All out blitz. Floater screen left. That's caught by Smith. Wiggles free. Burst 30, 25, 20. Foot raise 10 at the 5. And Javen Wright drags him down at the 1. They got the all-out blitz. They got the screen away to Jalen Smith, and it's 1st and goal. They mark him out at the 3.
Well, that was a heck of a call.
Chance to really put their foot on the gas here. Minnesota up 14-6 early in the 4th.
Donovan Jones looked like he got dragged down from behind.
Lindsey takes a snap, hand off. Here's Taylor, untouched around left end. Touchdown, Darius Taylor. 12:32 in the 4th. Minnesota 20, Nebraska 6.
But offensively, I mean, the very first play of the game, we had a missed assignment, just was out of whack. Obviously, Rocco going down, and, our prayers are up for him. Hopefully he's okay. Now they had to take him to the hospital. It sounded like, and then, obviously losing Pritch. But yeah, but I just honestly, Sean, we were just kind of out of whack the whole day. They pressured us, when we had chances to make plays. I mean, we ran by them, we didn't catch, just, and I don't say that's any one thing, right? Just at no point did we make the play you needed to make to win the game. Couldn't, it's 1 for 5 on 3rd down in the first half. And just a really bad effort.
Welcome back to the reaction here on 1620 The Zone, 402-951-1620. Real quick, Emmett Johnson's day. First quarter, no touches on the first drive. I mentioned that. 6 rushes for 21 yards in the first quarter. Second quarter, 3 carries for 14 yards. Third quarter, 2 rushes for 15 yards. And the fourth quarter, 3 rushes for 13 yards. He had 100 total yards, 14 rushes, 63 yards. Good enough average. Needed more touches. I don't quite understand what the game plan was with Emmett Johnson. We go back to the phones. That's where Michael is. What's going on, Michael?
Hey, Michael. Good morning to you. Hey, real quick. Couple days before the game started, the Minnesota game, Paul Feinbaum came on ESPN. He said that Rule's going to take that job at Penn State. Now, could that have caused any distraction, more distraction for them players to play the way they did Friday night? And you're doing a great job, Michael. I'm glad I've listened to you every Sunday. Hey, have a good day, Michael.
Michael, I appreciate it, man. I don't know if something that Paul Feinbaum said, because things get lost in the ether with so many people saying things. But I think that the fact that Matt Rule was on the top of almost every list that was put out, and the conversation was all week long was, is he going to be leaving? Is he going to be going? I'm sure that affects you. I don't want to use the example of divorce as much as how painful that could be for people. But if you're a kid and you're in the house and your parents are already yelling at each other and it's constantly a fight, and you think maybe they're getting divorced, it probably would affect your emotions a little bit, right? There's not a fight, but at no point did Matt Rule say definitively he was not going to Penn State. He didn't say definitively he was staying at Nebraska. And so there's always going to be the feeling of, will he leave? Could he leave? I'm sure that affects you. We are still talking about 17 to 23-year-olds, and you can call them whatever you want now that they get paid, but still, it still will affect you. It certainly will. Let's go to the phones. It's where Dave is. Go ahead, Dave. How you doing, man? Oh, Craig. I'm sorry. I hit the wrong button. Craig, what's happening?
Yeah. Hey, Michael. Say, early in the show, you mentioned the 7 Ps of preparation.
Yeah.
Proper prior planning prevents piss poor performance. And I just want to couple that with, hey, your philosophy and a strategy of X's and O's. When you combine preparation and your X's and O's, both have to be punctuated with just basic primal elements of football.
Right.
And that's who eats whose cabbage and who's kicking tail. And so that's not easy to do. It's a tough thing.
Sure.
But hey, when the going gets tough, the tough get going. And for whatever reason, Fleck's able to get that out of these guys.
Yep.
Up there versus Nebraska. But at any rate, that's what I would, $1 million coaches and players, I would get back to the fact that we have a good system. We're preparing hard, but we got to punctuate with primal aspects of being physical. And I think that's the answer to the rest of their season. Your thoughts?
No, Craig, I completely agree with you. The way my teacher said it was piss poor preparation prevents, proper preparation prevents piss poor performance. And you got to go with the order. The preparation obviously comes before the performance, but watching the performance indicates what your preparation was. And I don't think we saw that. And you're right about what people make fun of PJ Fleck, and they make fun of the sayings, and they make fun of what he says and the way he does his press conferences and the tight suits and all that stuff. But in the end, they believe him. They believe him, and the belief they have leads to them playing well. Whatever the reason is, they believe him. The line I used with Mike Schaefer, who drove back with me from Minneapolis so we can get back from Matt Verzol's Celebration of Life, is their culture beat our culture. You've probably heard that before. Their culture, whatever you think of it, beat Nebraska's culture. It came down to that. Yes, football is about blocking and tackling, but football is also between the ears and everything that happens from Sunday to Thursday. And from Sunday to Thursday, they beat Nebraska. He talked about in his press conference, PJ Fleck, shooting free throws, being fundamental, fixing the tackling issue, fixing the run game, fixing catching the ball when there's tight passes. They did all of that. Everything he talked about fixing during the week that they had as a problem, he fixed it. His culture. Nebraska had certain problems. Nebraska had certain issues. Nebraska should have taken advantage of certain things, and in the end didn't do any of those things. That was their culture this week. This week's culture. Not overall, but this week's. Before we take a break, let's go to Dave. Hey, Dave, what's happening?
Nothing, Michael. How are you doing?
I'm good, man.
Two things. First off, go Saints. I used to do play-by-play for the Carnegie Bearcats when Isaiah Stallbird was playing. So
Good kid.
Go Saints.
Good kid.
Yeah, he is, man. He's a great kid.
Yeah.
Secondly, you know what's really ticking off Nebraska fans is the fact that Coach Rule is saying, I want more. I need more money. I need this. You know what? Minnesota doesn't have as much stuff as we have. They don't have all the cool little toys that we have. Iowa doesn't have all the cool little practice field and the recovery stuff. They have something that money can't buy. And that's what we need to rectify as a football program. It's not money. Money's not the issue. It's something else.
I appreciate it, Dave. That's when I was talking about culture. That's when you go back to culture. Yes, you could have used another running back to be a backup running back. You could have used Marty Brown. Yes, you could have used another defensive lineman to get you some size inside. Yes, you probably could have used a third offensive lineman out of the portal that you tried to get. All of those things, yes, would have helped and could have gotten them because of money. But in the end, you didn't get any of that. A lot of teams didn't get any of that, but they're still making it work. Minnesota had all the problems in the world coming off of Purdue. They somehow managed to win a game against Purdue that they got outplayed, in many ways dominated, and they managed to win the game. Did they sulk? Did they say, oh, we barely won? No, they celebrated the win and then went out and kicked Nebraska's ass. That's what they did. We'll take one more phone call before we take a break. That's where Game Dog is this morning. Good morning, Game Dog.
Good morning, Michael. Hey, let's talk a little O-line real quick, okay?
Oh, hey, what's going on? How you doing?
What's up, dude? Been a while, huh?
Yeah, I know. It has been a while.
Okay, hey, so let's talk O-line a little bit, okay?
Sure,
So
yeah.
I want to ask you, let's rewind. I want to ask you an NFL O-line question.
Yeah.
Would you say last year, Michael, that the Philadelphia Eagles had a consensus one of the very best offensive lines in the NFL last year?
They had the highest graded offensive line the last 2 years, yeah.
Okay. Would you say going into that Super Bowl versus the Chiefs that was a heavy mismatch in their favor?
Yeah, especially with the injuries, sure.
Offensive line-wise.
Yeah, no doubt.
Okay.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, now, that Philadelphia offensive line had a right tackle that didn't give up a sack, Pro Bowl center, and another Pro Bowl player.
Yeah, guard.
They gave up 46 sacks last year, Michael.
Yep.
46 sacks. Okay, but if I'm listening to Nebraska fan, oh God, bro, 46 sacks. That's the worst offensive line in the country. That's the worst offensive line. How the hell do you give up 46 sacks and have a 2,000-yard rusher?
Hey, Game Dog, let me ask you, how many of those sacks do you think were on the quarterback? A man who holds the ball.
Listen, I'm a believer that 75% of the sacks are always on the quarterback.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Great
Right.
quarterbacks don't take sacks.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
Right.
So let's go to Nebraska's O-line. When you're rushing two guys, right, and like they did the other night and got sacked on Dylan, you rush two guys, and he has. If you sat there and watch the film, this huge, wide open pocket to step into. You have your center guard sitting there.
He did.
A nose guard from Minnesota didn't even bother getting off the line, and two edge rushers that are completely undisciplined, taking huge, wide rushes.
Yep.
You step up into that pocket. You take one step, dip your shoulder, step up. You have nothing but artificial turf, open air, and a lot of opportunities. When you're in the Michigan game and you're taking a sack on 3 guys, this guy turns and folds and runs into pressure and drops into a fetal position. I watch college football, NFL every weekend. Tackle play ain't what it used to. Now, I could pull up film on Anthony Munoz getting smoked. I could pull up film on Jonathan Ogden. It happens to the best of them, okay? But you watch these, Michael, if you're a defensive coordinator and you know Nebraska's play calling is pretty predictable, you have a very immobile quarterback who's going to be in the same spot every time he drops back in shotgun. Your pass rush edge guys can get very undisciplined. Okay, but if you're playing like a Diego Pavia, right, I'm watching him. They're coming off the blitz with the corner. 3 rush at him.
Yep.
Dude, he has nothing. If that's Dylan, he folds. He quakes his knees, he folds. Diego takes 1 step up, slide step. He's looking downfield. No, I'm going to take off for a touchdown. I watched the Bama quarterback last night, their first touchdown drive.
Simpson. Yeah.
Tennessee D tackle blows up the Bama left guard.
Yeah.
Comes in clean. Simpson takes 1 slide step, steps up, gets his 3rd down, keeps his feet, throws a tight spiral to his wide receiver. They get a first down. They end up scoring a 90-plus yard touchdown drive. I watch football every week. I watch tackles break down every week. I watch quarterbacks under pressure every week. I watch guys getting folded on the O-line. But you know what? I see quarterbacks stepping up, making plays, getting out of the pocket, scrambling with their feet to make plays with their legs or their arms. I see it every week, and I see this quarterback that's shell-shocked, can't read a damn defense, can't go through his progressions fast enough. And you guys, the O-line sucks, bro. The O-line sucks, dog. No, if you had a real damn quarterback who wasn't shell-shocked or a quarterback with a little bit of mobility who could step in the pocket or slide out and make plays, you wouldn't be talking about this. And if the O-line sucks so bad, how do they have an all-Big Ten running back in the backfield? Listen, I love EJ. I'm the biggest EJ fan I called for him to start in 2023 when all the other dorks didn't even know who he was. Okay, how you have a guy, and he's not the most talented running back, but he's one of the best running backs, maybe first team all Big Ten, if your O-line sucks. I'm not saying the O-line's the greatest, but the issues on the quarterback, the sorry-ass quarterback, and the issues also on the sorry-ass washed-up play caller that is the game has passed him by. So I was crap about the O-line. If you put in TJ, that O-line looks a whole lot different. Remember TJ at the goal line? I know they was against scrub teams, against Houston Christian and Akron. Remember how that looked? Oh, wow, man, got a quarterback scrambling in for a touchdown like I watch every other college football team across the country.
Hey, Game Dog, I appreciate it, man. The phone call and the conversation. I will say to you that everything you said at times is correct, but you leave out the amount of times that Dylan has actually scrambled and made plays, or the amount of time every game. He made one this past Friday night, the throw to Lindenmeyer, right? I mean, that was him making a guy miss. They had a free runner on the left-handed throw. Do I like the idea of a left-handed throw? No. They had a free runner on that. He escaped the guy, and he made the throw left-handed. So 4 or 5 times a game, he actually is doing what you're saying he doesn't do. But he doesn't get credit for that, and I understand why, because of all the sacks and the times that he doesn't do it. I like TJ Lateef. I do. And maybe he comes in, and maybe he is a revelation and performs like he performed against Houston Christian and Akron. There's a better chance he doesn't. And you see a young man who hasn't played at the Big Ten level behind an offensive line that is, I'm not saying it's bad, but it is very banged up and is struggling. And yes, he could run. It doesn't mean he's not going to throw interceptions. It doesn't mean he's not going to be able to read some defenses. It doesn't mean he'll be able to know the whole playbook based off of what he's learned so far. As much as Dylan Raiola has his problems, we too often leave out the amount of good plays he makes. We just do. He needs to be a better deep ball thrower. That's number one. Number two, he needs to get rid of the ball quicker. I agree. But he also, at the same time, needs to let plays develop and make the throw once they've developed. That means standing in the pocket with your head up, not looking at the rush, and making the throw. There's a lot of things that need to go into it. I still don't believe the answer is putting in TJ Lateef and saying, hey, boy, hey, kid, go out there and do that. I just don't believe it. Maybe it'll eventually happen. Maybe you'll get a banged up Dylan Raiola and you'll have to get the young man to come in there, and then we'll see what happens. It's certainly a possibility. Severe Reaction brought to you by Equitable Bank. We take banking personally, and brought to you by Nebraska Medicine. Join our team at nebraskamed.com/careers. We'll get to the biggest coaching malfeasance of the game, the biggest malpractice, when we come back here on Severe Reaction on 1620 The Zone.
Now, back to Severe Reaction, powered by Nebraska Medicine and Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Here's your host, Michael Severe, on 1620 The Zone.
And the Icheboy motions into the backfield. 2 wide receivers wide left. Solo man run. Just nice snap. Free rusher Watson Trent wraps up Lindsey. He gets smothered and brought down. A black shirt party in the backfield. Back at the 35-yard line, a loss of 3. Marquess Watson Trent and then Keona Davis help clean it up for the High Street first sack of the game.
The message is just making this next week our best week. You know, it's difficult sometimes when you lose, and we just have to figure out how to see where we went wrong. Maybe think about our mindset if our mindset was off at all, and attack the next week. You know, so it's about picking our heads up and coming together and making sure that we unite from moments like this.
Welcome back to Reaction on 1620 The Zone. That was Sierra Wright. I think Sierra's 22, 21, somewhere in there. And had probably the most reasonable and adult answer in the news conference after the game. Listen to what he said there. He mentioned having your mind right. He mentioned figuring out what you did wrong and fixing it. Because that's all you can do is go to work again. Every day, go to work again. Every day, go to work again. You prepare, you perform, you go to bed, you go back to work. That's all you can do. And I thought that answer he had was perfect. It was so adult of him. That's what they have to do from Sunday, today, through Thursday. And then travel, or if you're going on the road, stay at home, go to the hotel, win the game. Then the next day, you start work again. That's all you can do. And that's what he was talking about. All right, so I've been talking about this all show. There's a lot of things that went wrong. There's a lot of bad on the bad list. But the number one thing that I thought, and I was hoping to have Steve Sipple on this morning because I wanted him to prosecute this particular coaching malpractice that happened. Obviously, Nebraska had 9 sacks. They got sacked 9 times. I get that. 9 sacks. It was a bad day overall, right? The most in Minnesota history, 9. But there's no way it should have been more than 8. And there's no way it should have been more than 8 with Dylan Raiola in the game. They've been sacked 8 times. They're down 24-6. That's 3 scores. And there's 56 seconds left in the game. You send your starting quarterback back out there, which makes 0 sense to me. If you don't want to play TJ Lateef, that's fine. Put in Uncle Grandpa. Put him in there. Have him go in and take the snap. Or you put in Dylan Raiola, if that's your only choice, and you have him hand the damn ball off. What is the purpose of down 24-6? And don't give me, you don't quit. Why do you go out there with your starting quarterback at 24-6 with no time left and say, drop back to pass? It makes 0 sense. It's the silliest thing done among a day of silly things done in terms of coaching. It's coaching negligence. Why is he in the game? If he's in the game, why is he throwing the ball? I don't understand it. I was shocked to see it. So, we leave from upstairs to get downstairs to get to the press conference. So I'm hustling downstairs down. I get down there, and I see a sack. And I'm like, damn, they're passing at this point? And I'm expecting one of the backup quarterbacks to get up. And it's Raiola that's getting up. And I'm saying to myself, what the hell is going on? Why is he in the game? Why is he dropping back to pass? I know a lot of people who are listening to the show and that are Nebraska fans want to see somebody else start the quarterback. That's not the way to make it happen. By sending your starting quarterback out there to take a snap and drop back to pass for no reason. None whatsoever. You're trying to get a little confidence for the next game? No, why are you doing that? Doesn't make any sense. But they did it anyway. And I shook my head, and then I rewatched the game to make sure I saw what I saw, and I saw it again. And I still don't understand. I still do not understand what they were doing. Number of things they did. Not getting Emmett Johnson a carry on the first drive. Dropping back nearly 40 times behind what became a makeshift offensive line. Barney getting 1 target. Putting your quarterback back there for a 9th sack when the game is over. All of those things. Why the hell are you doing that? I don't understand. It was a very strange game plan. It was a lot of mistakes. We'll take a break. When we come back, I got a Northwestern game preview for you. They're coming off of a 19-0 win over Purdue yesterday. We'll break down what to expect from Northwestern when we come back here on Severe Reaction on 1620 The Zone.
Now, back to Severe Reaction, powered by Nebraska Medicine and Equitable Bank. We take banking personally. Here's your host, Michael Severe, on 1620 The Zone.
So obviously I'm disappointed. I never want to lose a game. But I just know we got a special group of guys. And, I'm going to just go into film tomorrow and just watch the film and get better. But, man, I'm not really, when it comes to this team, I know we didn't execute, but I still love all these dudes. And I'm just going to keep fighting for them, and I know they're going to keep fighting for me. So this next week's crucial for our program. This next week will be extremely crucial, bouncing back and playing against Northwestern. So we just got to focus on learning from this and then flushing it and then moving on to the next game. We're a lot closer. The guys know how we're going to respond, and we're excited. We're excited to get back to practice, and this one stings, and we get tomorrow off, so it's going to sit on us for a little while before we get to practice and get this one out of our system.
Welcome back to a reaction here on 1620 The Zone, 402-951-1620. Northwestern next Saturday. We still don't have a time. We're guessing it's going to be at 11.
I haven't seen anything at the moment.
We're guessing it'll be at 11. It's a 6-day window. Figured we would see it. We'd at least obviously it has to be by Monday, right? It has to be by Monday.
Well, it's
That's
gonna be
6 days.
It's probably going to be sometime by noonish, I would assume, probably 11 or noon.
I would hope so. Northwestern playing them next Saturday, whatever time that is. Really bottom of the Big Ten ranked offense, but really good on third down, though. It's kind of a conundrum when you look at their stats and you go, wow, okay, that's kind of interesting. They've been pretty good in the red zone, too. So not overall a great offense because their passing holds them back, but when they've had the opportunity to score, they've actually done okay. They do allow a lot of yards on defense, but just not a lot of points. They're 11th in FBS with 16.5 points allowed. Pretty good. They run the ball almost 40 times a game. They're averaging about 4.8 yards, and that is the whole season, about 4.4 yards in conference play, and about 190 yards a game. They went for 232 against Purdue yesterday. 232 against Purdue, a team that held Minnesota to 30 yards. Dude, college football is just weird. It's just strange. There's no A plus B equals C in college football. There just isn't anymore. Their pass offense, bottom of the Big Ten. The only two teams that are worse than them pass offense-wise is Wisconsin and Iowa. Preston Stone's got 10 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. He's completing about 58% of his passes. They have 11 total sacks, the same amount as Nebraska. They do have a -4 turnover margin. They've only forced 7 turnovers, takeaways. They've had 7 takeaways, 3 fumble recoveries and 4 interceptions, -4 turnover margin. I mentioned Preston Stone. Interesting about this guy. Watched him play, way back at SMU and stuff, and he's got 0 touchdowns and 6 interceptions in their losses, in their 2 losses. He's got 10 TDs and 1 pick in their wins. And in conference, he's completing 56% of his passes. They've got 2 running backs that together are the majority of their rushing yards, but not necessarily one dominant running back back there. So, look, man, you prepare for them the same way you prepare for everyone else, and you fix the mistakes that you're making, or you at least do enough to make them look like they're, you put some duct tape. Duct tape's got 1,001 uses. You put some duct tape around it, and then you move on and you play better. Remember, I said this earlier, every team out of all the games yesterday, half of those teams lost. And half of those teams feel that they shouldn't have lost, right? And they should have played better. Some teams got blown out. Some teams lost close games. Maryland did everything in their power to beat UCLA and managed to lose the game. Just didn't make the plays they needed to make. Penn State probably thought they had Iowa beat until Iowa took that last drive and went down and won the game with 3 minutes to go. I'm sure Purdue didn't think they'd get beat 19-0. And I know Nebraska and their fans didn't think that they were going to get beat 24-6. I certainly didn't. If you'd have told me Nebraska scored 6 points, I would think either there was an incredible thing that happened weather-wise, Dillon got hurt, Emmett got hurt, something happened for them to only score 6 points. And what happened was some bad preparation, some poor play calling, some poor plays in the red zone when they did get to the red zone, issues across the board, not just the offensive linemen, just not Dylan Raiola, just not the defensive line, not the secondary who missed tackles and didn't cover great. Was all of that put together. Outside of special teams, every other level should have probably got a D or worse in the grade outside of special teams. But now you got to flush it. As Sierra Wright said, as Emmett Johnson said in these last 2 breaks that we had, got to flush it, go fix it, go figure it out, and get better. We'll be back next Sunday morning following the Northwestern game, hopefully talking about a win, hopefully talking about being bowl eligible at 6-2. Maybe we'll be a little happier next week. I don't think we'll be talking about a backup quarterback playing, I think, unless something bad happens. But all of that, of course, next week, next Sunday on Severe Reaction, starting at 8 a.m. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Thanks for joining us, and have a great week.